Hi Janine.
Hi.
So I just wanted to ask actually about your think, talk, behave model. And I was just wondering, how did you come up with this model?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So I'll have to go back a little bit into my childhood because there are two parts to the answer. There is a personal part and then there's like an organization business part. Starting with the personal part, my childhood and my background is quite colorful. Lots of different influences of culture, countries, languages, different mindsets. And as I was young, I remember often kind of struggling a bit and grappling with this question of identity and what is my culture? Because there were certain types of food that we would eat that would be from, let's say, Gambia, where I spent some time in my life. And then there was also Moroccan celebrations and ceremonies that we would follow. We would dress according to a certain way, maybe a bit more westernized. We would speak multiple languages. So I would sometimes find myself asking the question, what am I supposed to say now? Is this the right thing to be thinking? And what's the right thing to do? Which set of values or which culture do I follow? So that was kind of something that was a consistent part of my childhood growing up. And then as I got older and I actually entered the workforce and I became a consultant and I was traveling around the world, I noticed something across all the hundreds of companies that I was working with. And that was one of the biggest challenges was communication and translating what culture meant to the workforce. So people would be in different sections of the organization saying, I know that we have a value called transparency or customer focus, but I don't know what to do about that in my job as an accountant or in my job in legal. And I thought, you know what, this sounds familiar. Are you grappling with what to do and how to make decisions and what to say? Yes. So I thought, I think that I may be the best person to tackle solving this problem. So that's how it kind of became a life mission, where my life and my work joined on the same path.
And so then I would ask you, how did you come up with think, talk, and behave? And what is the significance of having all three?
Okay, so now for me, simplicity is key. And what was very obvious was that we needed a way to translate complicated or complex, intangible things into really easy to understand language. And I also, as a part of my exposure to different religions, I was exposed to the Zoroastrian faith. And the Zoroastrian faith is built on the concept of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. And I thought, there is a lot of logic to that. You know, your thinking, it all begins with what you put in your head. And of course, there are a lot of other philosophies and a lot of different spiritual opinions that also follow the certain, but I remember picking that up from this good thoughts, good words, good deeds, and thinking there is something in that. And then as I read more around the subject and I found a lot more literature, a lot more research, I realized that there really was tremendous value in looking at these three tangible ways that people can understand. It also rang true with questions I had about how do I behave in a certain situation? How do I make a decision about what to do? How do I know what words to use? And then how do I actually do something? So that's kind of where it came from. It became very practical.
And why did you choose culture and made that your life mission? There are a lot of different problems that organizations face.
Yes.
But why culture?
As somebody who's been obsessed with people and relationships all my life, ever since I was young, I'm really a people person. I truly believe that there are two fundamental questions we have as human beings. The first is our identity. Who am I, right? And what defines me? And traditionally, culture has been one of the things that define a person, whether that's the dress and type of clothes that we wear, whether it's the language we speak, the type of food that we eat that define a culture or a country that we come from. And so culture is very intertwined with our identity, right? And then secondly, I'm also, as a people person, also very obsessed with relationships, because people, once they identify themselves, they then need to forge relationships with others, right? Whether it's in a family, whether it's in a community or in an organization. And then again, you ask the question, what are the rules and dynamics that we're going to set up to create the optimal, most loving and most positive relationship together? Whether it's in a family, in a society or community, or in an organization. So there again, you then bring the question of what's the culture that we use to dictate how we interact with each other. So that's why I believe culture can have a really big impact and does have a big impact on everything in life.
Perfect. And my last question would be, how do you see think, talk, behave model impacting the regular person's life?
From a very simple way, which is self-correction, right? So we are happiest when we are ourselves in alignment. What I mean is when you close your eyes at night and you just feel like you're aligned, like you are thinking and leading your life in the same way. I've often found myself when I am uncomfortable or unhappy, there's usually a misalignment in either what I believe and what I'm doing, or what I'm saying but what I'm doing. I'm saying one thing but I'm doing something else, or I value something and yet I'm saying something different. A really simple example is if you believe in kindness and then you get angry with someone and you say something mean, right? How do you feel? You usually end up regretting it. You think, ugh, I feel bad, why did I say that? That regret is a TTB misalignment. So that's how you can use TTB to create your own environment and create your own ideal way of living. So you can say, okay, what kind of life do I want to have? What kind of environment do I want to create for myself, my family, my community? And you can use TTB to start to translate it into clear language and behavior that everybody can understand. So you can kind of use it as a translation tool.
Okay, I was joking. Actually, I have more questions.
Aha, okay.
All right, so my next question is, why aren't more people talking about this model?
Well, this is a great question, and I wonder that as well. There's a lot of discussion around the questions of culture, the questions and research around how the world, through globalization now, is becoming so multicultural. And you've got people who are really global nomads, and you've got third culture kids and people who have like an accumulation of all sorts of different experiences all over the world. So there's a lot of talk about that. And there is some talk and discussion about how this is kind of generating certain new challenges and questions and even some medical, psychological issues with identity and confusion. But I haven't heard much discussion around, so what do we do about it? And what are some simple and effective ways that you can seize control and paint your own canvas for your own identity in your own life? Because we're no longer belonging to only one place. So we can't say, oh, I come from Morocco, thus go and see what Morocco is and that's me. No, you can't do that anymore, because if you go and see what Morocco is, that's not necessarily me. And you can't look at me and say, oh, you're Janine Bensouda, Moroccan, therefore you think this way, talk this way, act this way. Nuh-uh. So how do we identify people anymore? It's almost like we do need a TTB as our visitor card. We need to say, hi, I'm Janine, and this is my TTB, if you want to get to know me, which explains why I look, talk, think, say the way I do. Because people, what's the first question they ask you? Where are you from? But where are you really from? But why do you look like that if you're from there? Why are you speaking this language? Which is what I get all the time and a lot of people get. So I think that this question, it may be being asked, but I don't know if it's being answered.
How do you think that this can be a useful tool for example, a family who's raising kids?
Luckily, I know somebody who's raising kids this way, and it's me. So I've got 2 kids, and because I'm from my family, is mixed, and their father's also from another country, and we have so many different influences. I realized through practical experience how not being specific about something, let's say as simple as be on your best behavior because we have guests coming. What happens when you don't clarify what that means? Because, and some of you may relate to this, best behavior might mean one set of behaviors for certain audiences or guests and a completely different set of behaviors when another set of guests arrive. If it's my parents, then I want them to be talkative, friendly, expressive, come in, interact, etc. If it could be some other people who are more conservative, who are also friends of mine, I may want them to be a little less vocal, maybe not so much in everybody's face. Maybe I want them to be helping out a bit more, not helping out. So when you tell your kids, be on your best behavior, I pose it that it's a lot more useful if you can tell them, here, today what I'd like you to do is the following. When you see people, I'd like you to say these types of things, I'd like you to behave in this type of way, and I'd like you to make these type of decisions based on what's happening. And that empowers them to align better to what you're looking for, so you don't have all this confusion. So for families, and especially families with a lot of different influences, I think Think, Talk, Behave can be a great framework to help families sit down with each other and design out what their individual culture is and how it translates into the way they as a family think, talk, and behave.
And how do you think TTB can change the world?
Imagine an increasing percentage of people in the world who are multilingual, multinational, multicultural, right? All having to communicate with each other. And again, look at what we're doing to the world and how we're using and depleting the natural resources. Wouldn't it be amazing, and think about this, if at a level of an organization like the United Nations, let's say, a global organization, could actually use TTB as a framework to say, if we're looking to preserve this beautiful planet, live in harmony and peace, and take care of each other, if we can agree on those principles, then how does that translate into policies, governance, processes, and the way we communicate with each other? And if we could do that at that level, wow. And the second way it could change the world is, today, organizations are measured on the stock market. Public organizations are measured on the stock market, right? And their stock price is valued based primarily on financial indicators. What if we could create a quantitative index that measures how aligned the organization is to its values? So hold companies accountable for truly running themselves as they claim to be running themselves, and considering the impact on communities and the environment. That way, if that was a part of the stock price, believe you me, it would be on the agenda in the boardroom. More to come. Watch this space.
And what would you say to all those CEOs who right now say, we don't have time for a culture, we don't have budget for culture, we don't know what to do, we'll do that later?
Yeah.
What do you have to say?
I would say, would you like to lose $120 billion? Arriving at that conclusion too late when you are exposed to the public, because that is becoming increasingly easier in our day and age of social media. And so do you want to wait until these little cracks become a crate or an earthquake for your organization? Because eventually the truth is going to catch up with you. So if an organization, any CEO today who isn't paying attention and investing time and money in making sure that the operating model at the organization and the way that people work, and the way they think, talk, and behave in their culture is not aligned with their values, they're going to have to pay the price eventually. And the longer they wait, the more zeros will be added to the price that they have to pay. Call me. I can help. Thank you for asking. I really hope that more people will engage in this dialogue.
Bensouda Consulting.